Hello, hello, and welcome back to Transform. Sam and I are so excited to be on the mic today, sharing something that is such a special part of both of our journeys, and that is the Hoffman process. Hoffman is something that Sam and I have both had the absolute pleasure of doing this year. I went at the top of this year in January. Sam just went right after her birthday in July. And oh my goodness, is it not the most life changing thing? And I think there's a lot of talk about the Hoffman process. And after we've both went, I know we spoke pretty briefly to my process after I went in Jan on another episode. And Sam and I have both had such an influx of interest and questions. And really just the intention of this episode in sharing with you guys how life-changing the Hoffman process really was for both of us. And I think to start us off, there's a lot of episodes out there on the internet. Oprah actually just had a leader from the Hoffman process on her podcast that talks very deeply to the science and the history. And we really recommend going and listening to that episode to really understand how far back this goes from Bob Hoffman and his entire team. But today is really about Sam and I and our personal journeys. And again, us just being so here to be vulnerable and open and share our own experience with you so that you can make the decision if this is something that excites you for yourself. And we're really excited because off the top, I would say that Hoffman for me was really the first time I felt like an adult. And I've thought about this for a while. And granted, I've been out for 7 months and Sam's fresh. And that fresh feeling kind of makes you feel like an alien when you first get out. But the last 7 months, I've just felt so much more like an adult and so much more at home with myself. And a lot of the work that you do has to do with your mom and dad and letting go of a lot of these patterns that we carry from our childhood, from being a kid to who our mom and dad are in this world. And I did so much work on releasing so much of that. And to me, that was the first time that I actually felt like an adult because I was no longer blaming them for what my life was. I was no longer passing off guilt to them for what I had maybe had to go through. It was me actually taking ownership for my life and me finding the compassion and forgiveness for my mom and dad. And to me, that is like really becoming an adult and like standing on your own 2 feet and not making this situation of like someone else coming to rescue you. It's you actually doing the work and saving yourself. And that was my biggest takeaway. And of course, we're going to dive in. But Sam, I'm curious, just a month after your experience, if you have one big takeaway that we can start off with too.
Gosh. Yeah, it was so many things, and I'm really excited to dive in. And I think the question I'm getting most asked when I come out of it is your life completely changed? People are like, you went for a week, you have no phone, you deep dive from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that is a true story of how much work you are doing for 7 days straight. And they're like, is your life changed? And what I would say as my biggest takeaway and looking back at it and being a month out is you do come home to yourself, which in my eyes is my life being changed because you feel so connected to who you actually authentically are. We have so many patterns, so many things, so many society things that have interrupted us being our most authentic us.
Mm-hmm.
We have personalities, identities, things that people have put on us that is who we are. And at Hoffman, you come back to who you truly are. And leaving there is such a weird thing because you feel so good.
Mm-hmm.
You honestly don't wanna leave because you're with people that also see you for who you truly are, and you feel safer than you've ever felt in your life. I think that was a really big takeaway for me too, was the safety that I felt. like, to truly feel safe and show everyone. Think about, like, spilling your guts out of, like, your most vulnerable moments that maybe you would say when you were really drunk and you're like, "I can't believe I said that."
Yeah.
You are going there every single day,
But
and that
with
might sound very
everyone.
with everyone, which is 39 other people
Yeah.
with all different walks of life, but the safety you feel is a life-changing experience, and to create that safety in my life today is my goal, and also, I will say this was something leaving there I was really grateful for because you do leave there with these beautiful relationships, not only with yourself, but with the other 39 people. But I was really grateful to know that I've already created some safe relationships and that I wanted to dive even more into them. One of them is with, obviously, my best friend, Sami, right here. It is very unique to feel so safe and be able to share your entire self and then someone still say, "I see you and I love you." And I think we'll dive into that more today too.
Yeah, the Hoffman bond is unlike anything I've ever felt. My teacher, who was also there at Sam's, Steve, he always calls Hoffman Love Camp. And not only Love Camp in the way that it is so pro social and you doing these things with 39 other people, but also Love Camp in the fact that you do really come home to yourself and you love yourself for who you are, identity stripped. I'd love for us off the bat to give our why of how we actually chose Hoffman and decided to say yes and do something that I went in completely blind, not even knowing what I was signing up for, but I think it's really interesting how people do hear about it, and even when you arrive there, I feel like that is a very common question that you go around, like, "How did you hear of Hoffman? Tell us your story to Hoffman." So, Sam, what was your why?
Well, you gifted me the beautiful gift of Hoffman. So
I gave Sam yeah, I guess that is pretty crazy, but y'all know Sam and I's relationship, and when I knew I was doing Hoffman, it's just, like, if I'm gonna do it, I need Sam to do it, and it's also
Mhm.
something that Sam and I had both always wanted to do, both not really knowing a lot about it, so as soon as I booked it, I also knew her wedding was coming up, and I'm like, "What else could I get this girl?" Like, truly, I wanna go there, and, yeah, and even when I was there, it was such a direct message of knowing that you needed it too.
Yeah, you feel that when you're there of like, who needs this? Um, so for me, my why, and again, when I received this gift, it was without a doubt, I'm meant to go. And, you book it in advance too. Like Sam gifted this to me in November and I didn't go until July. There is a beautiful wait list, everyone, because there is not a lot of spots. So just know that it is timely. But I wanted to go to come back to my authentic self and my truth.
Mhm,
I feel like I started to see there were things roadblocking me from connecting to her as much as I wanted to. I would get glimpses, I would, self doubt or question, is that my intuition? Is that her? And I could tell that there was parts in me, especially as I've done so much work, as I've shared on here, connecting back to my little self, little Sammy. There was so many things that came through that I have honestly dissociated from or put to the side. And now being the adult that I am, and like Sam said, you really do feel like, okay, I'm an adult and I'm ready to actually peel back the layers of why I am the way I am. And I felt so committed and honestly had the capacity, which I think is very important too, because I will side note this. You guys, Hoffman is a lot of work.
yeah,
It is so much work that not like you need to be prepared for, but you need to say yes to. I would recommend if you are thinking about it, understand that your whole body needs to say yes to it because it
mhm.
takes a whole body yes to actually commit and embrace the freaking work you're about to do at this place. And I, with being where I'm at now and doing all the work that I've done, I think it came at the most divine timing for me to actually
Mhm.
dive into this work and for me to love myself fully. And when I say love myself fully, it's not with some affirmations of loving the parts of me that I like. It
Yeah.
is loving myself with all of the shame statements, the unworthiness, the self doubt that we all deeply have, and allowing those parts to come through and saying, oh, I love you more because I understand where these have come from. I understand that you actually just need me to love those parts even more. I understand why you're here. It really was for me to come back to myself, to feel whole within myself,
Mhm.
and to love myself absolutely unconditionally. And that's what Hoffman absolutely gave me.
Mm.
You peel back the layers of understanding why you are the way you are, and not from a shame place or a disgust place, but from an absolute abundant of love and light place. You understand the humanness of all of us. You understand the humanness of your parents. Gosh, the parents are a very big part of it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's only because it's gonna free yourself. So they bring your parents into it because they have shaped us, and you really learn how their patterns have shaped who you are, and then you get to actually become so aware. Like, this awareness that you
Mhm.
step into at Hoffman is sometimes like, "Holy shit, this is overwhelming of how many patterns or things that I'm becoming aware of," but then you get to actually give them love. Then you get to actually give them validation. Then you get to actually give them expression. And that was another part I know we'll dive into is the expression there. I think we live in a world where it's really hard to express all of the other emotions
Mhm.
besides happy and joyful. Like feeling sad and actually crying, you will cry there. Feeling anger and actually allowing yourself to express anger, you will have. And it's a safe place to allow those emotions to move out of your body to create more space for love and light, abundance, compassion, softness. And when you give that to yourself, then you get to give that to everyone else. So in the end, it's the biggest gift for you, but it's really the biggest gift for everyone around you as well.
I'm really excited for us to tap into the release of so many of those emotions and how we were both able to do that. But then in hindsight, too, the differences from our experiences of some of the things that challenged me that were so easy for you and vice versa. When it comes to my why, I had heard of Hoffman through a very close family friend, and her parents both went. And after they both did it, they actually sent their kids, my friend being one of them. And this is a friend that I trust deeply. She feels like another sister. She has been in my life since I'm 2 years old. So I just know her really well. And when she came back, it was almost what I was saying about like I was doing the process thinking of Sam. She actually nudged me and said, I wouldn't tell this to most people, if not like literally anyone, but I do think you would really, really get a lot out of this Hoffman process. And that was one nudge I got. And then I was chatting with my brother. This was 2 years ago now. And for those of you who don't know, Frankie and I are very close. Very, very, very close. Like brother and sister, but also best friends, but also like life coaches to each other in ways where we've just seen each other through so much as brother and sister and have really helped each other through so much. And he was in a time of life where he was needing more. And this was about like 6 months after my mom died. And my brother and I were grieving very differently. My grief was very sad, and I think my brother's grief was actually very angry. And one of his friends mentioned the Hoffman process to him. And he was talking to me about it. And we were both in our hometown in Boca when he mentioned it, saying that his friend, who he really trusts, did Hoffman and really recommended Frankie to go to Hoffman. And I go, oh my gosh, so and so, our family friend, also has done it and had amazing, oh my gosh, like amazing things to say. I really think you should do it. And we signed him up and we put down the deposit. And I think in that moment in hindsight, Frankie was kind of doing it because I was so excited for him versus him saying yes for him. And not that Hoffman is rehab by any means. Like, I mean, it's definitely a place where you go to like form the best version of you, but it's not rehab. And similar to rehab, though, I would say you can't go to rehab for someone else. You got to do it for you. And a few months after, Frankie had this time slot that he had put down the deposit for Hoffman, and he said, I just don't think the timing's not right. I'm excited to do it one day, but it's not for me. And I had such a reactive response to them. Like, what do you mean it's not for you? Like, I would dream to be able to take a week of my life to go there and do that for myself. And Frankie immediately said, then why don't you do it?
Mhm.
And it was so interesting because all those nudges were really this story of me needing to choose it for me. But it's interesting in life, what you wish for everyone you love the most are usually the signs of what you actually crave and desire for your own life. And that was my final nudge of, okay, I'm taking the deposit and I'm signing myself up. And that was, oh my gosh, that was, yeah, probably like 6 months, similar to Sam's timeline before I was able to get in. But I loved that I was able to get in for January because obviously we all know January is this month where we are pressing restart and just choosing the best life that we want to live. And going mid-January was really timely for me in that way. So I ended up going in mid-Jan. And my biggest intention going in and my why was to forgive my mom. And I knew that basically the only thing I knew was that I was going to deep dive on the shit with my parents. That is all I knew. And I didn't know really what that was going to look like, how we were going to do that. I didn't listen to anything or read any book, but I was really excited to have a week's time where I was going to fully unplug. You do a full digital detox, no phone, no computer, no nothing. That in itself is like one of the biggest blessings of Hoffman. And to take that time to intentionally find forgiveness for my mom, because at that point, that was 2 years after her death, I was still angry. I was still really sad. I honestly still had a lot of emotion towards why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Why did you have to do this to me? And I'll just finish by saying that not only was I able to forgive my mom, but I was actually able to see her for the beautiful human that she is and love her so much more. Not only find forgiveness, but find real unconditional love for who she was in this life and who she forever will be as my mom. And to do so much more for myself outside of my relationship with her and like um what started off as such an intention for me and Hoffman, that was really just the small seed that was planted to so much more.
Mm. Yeah, the parent part it is so important of a piece that I don't think I actually knew I was gonna tap into so hard
Mhm.
because I think I was so, like, going in there for me.
Yeah.
But the parents because Sam beautifully honestly didn't share anything with me, and so I went in with my word being embrace, like, I was like, "I'm just gonna embrace," which I highly recommend taking that word because you do a lot of things that are very uncomfortable. But going and embracing, I didn't know that it was gonna be so much about your parents, and I just say that for everyone to understand that it is actually such an important piece, and it is a piece that I think allows you to have the awareness, the compassion, but also, again, that expression of it's not saying going in, you just forgive your parents. Like day one, it's like, let's all forgive our parents. Let's just feel good about them. It's such a beautiful 7 days where you go through the journey of life of being able to have that awareness of things that have happened, that patterns that have created or patterns that were once your parents and then they passed down to you. And then from there, you have this expression moment. And the expression is very important. It's an important piece that we don't do in today's world.
Let's
We
talk
move
about
from
it.
awareness. Let's talk about it because I think that was one of the biggest things that everyone had the most discomfort with, at least what I saw with my class, was the expression part. I don't know about you, but that was like, what do you mean we're about to express anger, or maybe even crying was easier for people, but anger was one of the biggest expressions
Mhm.
that we let out. And it was crazy to see how not natural it was for 99% of us.
Yeah, the beautiful thing with Hoffman is you do everything in a group. So not only is it your experience, but you get to really witness humanity in all of these emotions and experiences. And it's very multi-generational. There's so much diversity in that room, which is also such a gift. I personally think that, yeah, so the expression comes after the awareness, right? So you become aware of all of these patterns that you carry, whether it's always needing to be perfect, whether it's something specific like alcoholism, whether it's something having to do with your body, or maybe something having to do with sex. Like, there's so many patterns that exist, and you go through such a big process of becoming aware of your mom's patterns, your dad's patterns, and then your patterns. And then you're given these opportunities to express. And that was, in my life as now a 30-year-old woman, the first time I've ever expressed my feelings. I think I've done decades of therapy of that awareness around who I am, and, like, a lot of talk therapy, EMDR, so many different forms of therapy, but I had never really moved through the emotions and released the emotions. And specifically for me, the most challenging one, Sam, that you mentioned was anger. I feel like my entire life, I actually confused anger with sadness, because when I was angry, I would cry. And when I was angry, I would hide away, and um, I was taught to never scream, to never act out, to never use my body to release this emotion. But what happens is your body basically continues to carry that emotion that you're not expressing. So, given the opportunity to do that for me was insanely uncomfortable. And this is where I'm excited for Sam and I to share our differences. I actually couldn't do it. And my teacher had to pull me aside. And I was crying to him, saying that, like, this is so challenging for me. One of my biggest patterns was not only judging myself, but others judging me too. And I was living out of a place of fear of everyone judging me judging me, doing something that felt so wrong. Honestly, like, in life, I think of things as right or wrong. And to me, that felt so wrong, but it was so the right thing that I just needed to learn to do. And I'm so grateful for the group that I was in, because they knew that in me already, and they encouraged me to do this big release. And oh my God, I mean, something like so primal happened. And I connected to such a
Mm.
fierce, free, powerful, badass fucking human that I am, but that I had buried so long. And I tapped into a lifetime's worth of moments that I had buried. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, that release changed my life forever. And it's something that I still do. And I can actually feel when I'm needing to release and express in that way. But for as challenging as that specific type of emotion was for me, when Sam got out and we were able to chat through what she wanted to share, I'm excited for you to tap in and really share how that moment was for you on the anger side.
Yeah, and I love that we get to both share our experiences because they are different, and I feel like, that's something even that we learn. You get to see yourself in so many people, but you also see so many different people going through different things. And for me, and when we're speaking of these patterns that we consistently use that word, for me, that was very new knowledge to call it such a pattern.
Mhm.
But these are things that are those roadblocks that are coming up continuously in your life that don't feel like they are from love, that don't feel like they are from your authentic self. They feel like they are a pattern, a habit that you just continuously do and have learned. And a lot of the times we've learned it from survival, and we've learned it because that's how we know how to receive love. Like, if you listen to the Oprah podcast where she interviewed the leader from the Hoffman Process, he speaks on this, and this was so fascinating to me, and I just wanna mention this because it was such new knowledge for me, is for us being so young, we as babies, obviously, all we want to do is survive and then be loved. And we are looking to our parents to give us that. And say that their energy is sadness, we as babies don't know how to process our
Uh-huh.
sadness or how to express it yet. And we just mimic our parents. And obviously, our parents have done the best that they can from their parents and learned how to express emotions, how to move through the world. And that moment for me at Hoffman of realizing my patterns, which you guys, you go through like 200 patterns. There's so
Yeah.
many patterns you dissect. It's like everything in your day that comes through. For me, it'd be like self doubt. That's a constant pattern. Confusion. That's a constant pattern. And those were survival mechanisms to make me move through the world, or perfectionism, like, which some of these patterns have taken you as far as you have gotten. So there's a lot of love for these patterns, but now we're breaking them down. And this expression part that Sam mentioned, I did not know that I needed it as bad as I did. Similarly, I never expressed anger. I actually always raced to compassion and forgiveness. Like when people hurt me, I'd be like, it's okay, I forgive you. And I'd move on, but it would
Uh-huh.
just store in my body as a natural emotion for us to have towards someone if they have hurt us. And obviously, we're talking about healthy aggression, not actually yelling back at someone or hurting someone. But it's this beautiful moment of understanding that this emotion has energy and it's moving in our body. It's like when you cry, you feel it behind your eyes. And if you don't allow it to actually let go and have the tears be expressed, now it's stored in the body. And what are we connecting so much of our illnesses to, and autoimmune diseases and so many things, is to stored emotion that just needs to be processed. So here at the Hoffman Process, you express, like, I think that's a like 50% of it. There's days where you're like, I don't want to express anymore. Like, I am really letting it all out, but that's because they know that that is one of the biggest things we are all lacking, is to let your body express, let
Uh-huh.
your thoughts express, let your emotions be expressed and not be judged, and instead be absolutely understood that this is what we are supposed to do as humans. So for myself, anger again was not an expression that I have really let out. And I wasn't prepared for how much my body needed to release this. And like they say, your body always remembers, your body always
Uh-huh.
keeps the score. My body was keeping that score because the moment we went into the expression exercise, which I won't give too much because I think going into that blind is a really beautiful thing, my body completely let go. And I was expressing anger like I was a part of the Mean Girls scene in the cafeteria. Like I was an animal, I was primal, I was in my own world. I kind of blacked out almost. Like the class actually came up to me after, like people were coming up to me like, "Wow, that was incredible." And I'm like, I obviously had to let a lot out because I didn't even realize how much my body needed to express. And when you surrender and let yourself get out of control, which of course us all want to be in control, we would never let anyone see us in that light. When you let yourself get out of control and move in ways you've never moved, say things you've never said, release in ways you've never released, and let yourself go there, these space after I expressed that, I felt like I was on every drug probably that could ever exist that makes you feel good. I was
Yeah.
floating. Like I was floating. And you really realize how much we do store in our bodies and how much it just wants to be expressed, even for 10 minutes. The more that we can actually invite in this expression, then we can come into that compassion and forgiveness and actually feel free and actually feel really good about it rather than feeling like it's still stored in my body, but I forgive you.
Something I feel like we need to also tap into on that note is the quadrinity. And oh my god, it makes it sound like the quadrinity. It sounds like a Harry
Quadrinity.
Potter series.
Yeah.
But this was another thing that changed my life, and it's actually something that I've done every single day since leaving Hoffman and obviously being at Hoffman, and that's what they call the quad check. So your quadrinity is 4 parts, and it is your body, your intellect, your emotional self, and your spirit. And your spirit is really the leader of this quadrinity. But I had never dissected myself and my emotions and all of my feelings in this way of how they explain it during the Hoffman process. And this is something, again, that I've done literally every single day since because it has changed my life. And what I realized before is obviously, you guys, if you listen to Transform, you know a lot of my story. I've spent years reconnecting with my body. I used to be completely dissociated from my body, but going into Hoffman, was definitely very connected to my body. And I'm so grateful for that because I could take messages from it and like really understand where my body was at specifically. But before Hoffman, when I would try to check in with self, I think this is why I could never get into meditation. I would sit down and be like, okay, my body's screaming at me, my emotions are screaming at me, my intellect's like, what the fuck, my girl? Like, you need to do this. And like spirit, like, I don't even have a spirit. I don't even know what that is because my body is screaming and everything else is completely just like overwhelmed, which was one of my biggest patterns. So starting and really taking this quad and saying, okay, here's my body. Now let's move on to my intellect. My intellect, actually, interestingly enough, has always been an overdrive. I think because of making meaning of the way that I was raised, I was always searching for safety that I should have been given at a young age, but had to find on my own. Something as simple as how am I getting to school today wasn't something that was given to me. I had to figure out on my own alongside my brother at a really young age amongst a million other things. So my intellect, since being a very young kid, has been an overdrive to create safety for me, to make sure that I am taken care of. And when your intellect's in overdrive, basically what you're doing is you're shoving down your emotional child. That inner child can't be there if your intellect is driving the car. So every day being able to check in and really see what my intellect wants, because I am grateful to be a very type A, organized structure person. But when that's all that I am, I'm really diminishing the beauty of that inner child. And that was such a gift from Hoffman of reconnecting with my emotional self, which is where your inner child is. And doing something every single day and checking in every single day of what does my child need today? What is the adult version of recess that I'm playing into today? What can I be silly and re-engage to feel like the forever young kid that I get to be every single day? And that has brought me back to myself and to my spirit more than anything. So finishing this off with the fourth part of the quad, being your spirit is who you truly are when you're not just leading with all of these identities that we shove on ourselves. So I would say before Hoffman, my identity was, being again this like very type A, organized, structured person who has their shit together, who's not overtly emotional, who, has a lot of expectations. And what I came home to was the more imperfect I am, the more spirit led I am. And when my hair is not perfectly pulled back and it's actually wild and curly, and when my outfit's actually not completely perfect, and when I do stutter on my words or not just, shove down what I need to put everyone else before me, that's where I actually tap into who my spirit is and to really figure out who she is and who's been there all along. And when I think of her, I think of this free, fierce, intoxicatingly joyous human who is just themselves. And it's something that I now again get to check in with every single day. And I envision this goddess that is just like living her best life. And doing that at the top of every single day has been such a game changer and such a gift from Hoffman. And really, I mean, that is the only reason I'm able to meditate and journal now, because I've been able to dissect all that I am in such a digestible, relatable, really just easy way that connects so deeply to all the beautiful parts that we are. Sam, I know you are obviously interested to the quad check too, and I'm curious how that shifted a lot of your wellness practices as well.
Yeah, I think something that was so powerful for me was you do a quad check, you also do a lot of visualizations when you're there, and I got to connect to my truth in the way that they really teach you to trust what comes through.
Mhm.
So here is me probably from the perfectionist side as well, but would be like, okay, connect to your body. And say if my body was like, I need love, I'd be like, you sure? Is that the answer? Do you need love? Or maybe you need a workout, or maybe maybe
The
you need some,
intellect.
the intellect comes in hot. And so
Yeah.
I got to actually trust what came through and distinguish the different feelings of what is the body, what is the emotional self, the intellect, and the spirit. And that was really important for me. It was really important for me to build a relationship for each one, understand why they are there, and then connect to their essence of, oh, that is them speaking and I get to be there for them. And so when I ask the body every day now in my quad checks, and a lot of the time, let me say, it is asking for love, which I love that because
Mhm.
body love is something we talk so much on here. I trust it and I give my body that, exactly that. And for me, I see how much my intellect and my emotional self worked as a team, but in a way where they weren't working together in a great way. They were
Yeah.
working together almost of like, what would happen is my emotional self would feel a feeling, right? It'd feel fear or it'd feel sadness. And here comes my intellect, like, no, 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 really bad feeling. We can't feel that. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to create an entire storyline. I'm going to give you some data points of why this is a really bad idea. Because you remember
Totally.
last time you felt sad? You were in a corner crying, and that was really hard, and we don't wanna feel that again, so let's think of something else. So I got to, like, and I laugh at it now because it really is this, like, these characters within us that are just trying to protect us, and the more that you as spirit show them, "We are in control here, but let's all work as a team." Like, you have to remember your spirit is the driver, and you can call it your highest self, you can call it your authentic self. Really, the names are just what they have created, so you get to actually connect to what
Mhm.
feels true to you. But you get to remember the spirit, the highest self is in the driver's seat, but it's bringing these parts along and allow them to be a part of it and remember why they're there, but allow them to work as a team. So now when my emotional self comes up and she's feeling sad or anger, the intellect, instead of racing to, let's not feel this, it comes to the toolbox of how can we express this and let's work together. And then the intellect will be like, and can we also do this of creating, it still loves to create a to-do list of, can we also, text that friend that maybe would make me feel better? So they're working more as a team and you just feel a little bit more, control might be the wrong word, but more
Yeah.
aware of what's going on in your mind, your body, your spirit, and it allows you to feel more home in yourself. I remember that was a feeling I felt too why I wanted to go to Hoffman is there was times where I was scared to be in my own body. Like I was
Mhm.
scared to be in my own self, and I think that was because I was dependent on what other people were saying and taking it on as my truth. And to connect to your truth yourself, you allow other people to have their opinions, you allow other people to connect to their highest self, but allow both truths to exist.
Mhm.
And that was a very important message I needed at Hoffman.
Yeah, your quadrinity is really like calling a truce with each other.
Mhm.
And it's this really needed moment of allowing them each to express themselves, because I'm sure a lot of you are listening to this and you're like, "Holy shit, I agree, my intellect is, like, taking the lead," or maybe it's the opposite in that your emotional child is so in the driver's seat that, like, you can't even make a plan for yourself, and there's a why to all of that, and this was just such a game changer in now having that toolbox of, okay, I know my quadrinity and I know how to express it from here and from what I'm feeling. Something that I think we should do is kind of go through more rapid fire of like what you need to know going into Hoffman, because I feel like what Sam and I both agree so much is that a lot of the magic of the Hoffman process is in the unknown. So if you are saying yes to this and you are going in, there's so much magic in what you don't know that's waiting for you that will unfold as it does. And when we tell you that they have every second planned to such a science and an art, and that they've been doing this in the most brilliant, life changing way for, I mean, it's like over 50 years, you are going to be so taken care of. And it should come from a place of zero fear. It's literally love camp in the best way. But I do feel like there's some more basic questions along the lines of like lodging, food, what to wear, what to pack that we can kind of talk through right now too.
My favorite thing that Sam did warn me about, which I was or warned, just bring to my awareness, was the lodging experience, and I think it's important to state because usually I think people would say when you go to a retreat, you're, like, in this luxury spa
Yeah.
energy
It's like
with, like, a
bougie.
massage on the Saturday, and then you eat this, like, certain food, and you get someone brought to your room to give you some tea, and listen, you are not really in your room a lot. You are not in the lodging a lot. You are doing so much work outside of your room. So your room's purpose is to sleep.
Yes.
Sleep, sleep, sleep. So with that purpose, they peel back the layers and they put you in a trailer dorm room. Like this thing.
Granted, we did the Northern California one too, so I don't know what the other
Oh yeah.
properties are like. But yeah, I literally told Sam, I'm like, it's a trailer park. Like, I'm
It's a trailer
warning you.
park.
It's a literal
With
trailer park.
my girl across the hall, her name is Beth and or woman, she's amazing. I remember when the first day we showed up and she like told the supervisor that was coming around, she's like, "There's a hole in my wall and
Yeah.
there's light coming through. And then when I go to sleep, I'm a little worried that I'm not gonna be able to sleep." And of course, they were so helpful and like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry
Yeah, no,
about
the
that."
staff
The
is
staff is
amazing.
absolutely out of this world incredible. But my point is it's just it's not like a luxury thing. And I will say people
Totally.
were like, "I wish I would have known." So I do think that's an important factor. Bring a special blanket, bring the thing that makes you feel good. My bed was comfortable, but I had like a blanket and Sam gave me this this rock. Which is a funny thing, but it wasn't specifically for Hoffman, but I took it and it said, "I am light," and so I slept with it on my chest, but just things that remind you of
The most
home and
Sam thing ever.
no, literally, I slept with that rock on my chest.
Yeah.
But like a stuffed animal is good for the lodging experience so you can feel cozy.
Yeah, they really peel back the layers, as Sam said, and you definitely want little things to make you feel like you're at home, but not necessarily like in the luxury of what home feels like. So maybe it's like a little baby Lola blanket that you could bring that's really cushy, or that teddy bear that you've had your whole life. Definitely something to make you feel cozy. And then you're also told to bring photos. I actually brought a ton of photos just because I wanted to see my younger self and I wanted to see my parents' faces as often as I could. So bring those really meaningful photos as well. When it comes to what to wear, I went in January, Sam went in the summer. So I was there when it was cool. I did not bring makeup. I did not bring any like hair tool beyond a brush. You are there to be comfortable. And especially if you're someone listening to this who has the pattern of caring what you look like, let me say right now, that is a pattern that you deserve to break through because your worth is not in what you look like at all. So for me, I was wearing hoodies and sweatpants every single day. You definitely want some active wear as well for some of the expression that you're doing. If you go to the Northern California property, it's also beautiful and you can hike in the morning. So definitely have some clothing that you can move in too.
And then as far as for food, the food I'm really grateful for because you are doing so much labor and work and
Yeah.
just you really want these foods that are gonna fuel your body. And this is where I'm saying they have it down to like the queen of the queen of how this playbook happens because their food was excellent. You get fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every meal is fueling, every meal is so filling, every
Mhm.
meal is so intentional. They have certain meals that are also like in celebration. I don't want to give too much on that, but
That was so
it's super
fun.
fun how they make food actually such this celebration
Mhm.
part of it. But you are so set up with food, dietary restrictions. They asked this before you name it, they have it, but you have a different meal every single day, so it's also so fun to enter into the
Oh my
cafeteria.
god, I miss those
Uh Yeah.
cookies so much.
Oh, the cookies, I had so many cookies there,
So
like, because 'cause you're
many.
so hungry, you guys. You
You
are
are
doing so much work. When you get
so
in there, you're
hungry.
like, "Give me food."
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is to pack snacks because the snacks were kind of, like, not
Yeah.
as amazing. So I packed, like, protein bars, Chopsticks, you know the drill over here.
But you're actually
Uh,
not allowed to eat them in your room. Did they
I
tell
know,
you
I
that?
put them in the little there's a fridge that you can, like, put your little section
Yes.
of things in.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the food was I mean, this is actually such an interesting part of my journey that doing that in January, I actually that was part of my, like, very disciplined era where I was working out every day and I was still intermittent fasting, so I go in and they're feeding you, like, this huge buffet breakfast every morning, and they're like, "Eat," because, you're about to do all of this and, like, you really need to fuel your body. So it was the first time I started eating breakfast in a really, really, really long time, and I'm so grateful for saying yes, and my body definitely wanted it too, and leaving there, I don't know how much weight I gained, but, like, my jeans and my clothes were fitting different by the time I got home, and there was so much happening in my body afterwards because I do think the food is intentionally very comforting because of the amount of work that you're doing. I was eating dessert at every single meal. I was probably eating enough for a family of 4. Like, I was going hard, and that food was so good, but again, so grateful because it was really comforting when you're doing so much work. Something else that I feel like we get asked a lot is how was doing a digital detox because if you arrive, it usually starts on a Saturday morning, but typically you want to arrive Friday night and you have one night there before giving up your devices Saturday morning. You can, if you're more local, arrive that Saturday morning. Sam and I both prefer to get there that night before and you have your phone. And I feel like there's so much anticipation in that, like, you have your phone, you can still speak to your family, you have your computer if you want to, like, watch Netflix in your room. But giving up my devices that next day, I actually, when I was given them back, did not turn them on until I got in my driver's car to leave the property. You really figure out, I mean, even like looking at blue light after that was crazy. But I realized that being accessible all the time and always being on is actually not only such an interruption, but such an intrusion of my own life. And after Hoffman, I've made so many big changes with my phone. I actually don't even keep a phone charger upstairs. I keep my phone downstairs. It is on do not disturb for my entire workday. Like, there's so many more boundaries I have. I bought like a wristwatch to be able to tell what time it is so I don't have to carry my phone on me just to know what time it is. Little things like that. But if something like a digital detox is scaring you, let us be the first to tell you that it's probably one of the best things to come out of Hoffman and something that Sam and I are actually really excited to continue to do for hopefully a week out of the year, moving on into future years too.
I feel like another thing to touch on just to close this out is the integration process. So, after you've been there for an entire week, 7 days, truly you feel like you are separate from the world. Like, I forgot everything that existed outside of I was in this process, and that was my main focus. And there's a lot of anxiety and energy that comes up, or at least came up for me when I thought about getting my phone back, when I thought about
Mhm.
entering into the world again, when I thought about my intellects turning on, hey, we have 40 things
You
we
have
need to do when
5,000
we get out of here. Yeah.
emails.
Here is the emails, text messages, calls.
Yeah.
You got to tell everyone. Of course, everyone's going to ask. Like, you name it, everyone there was thinking it when you were thinking about leaving the process. So let me say this, you are never alone in what you are feeling. Every time you had a question, someone had the exact same question, and Hoffman had an answer for it because it's been thought. So the integration process, after you have done the week, they actually recommend, and I would absolutely without a doubt say that this is a must. I know some people shared that they didn't do the integration and they wish they did,
Yeah.
is to go stay at a hotel nearby or wherever you wanna go by yourself. And this part is really important because you have to understand your system needs to process everything you just did. you just ran a marathon, like even more than a marathon, 10 years of therapy in a week, that if you were to enter back into the real world, turn your phone on in 2 seconds, go back to taking your calls, go back to your work life right away, your system would go into so much overdrive and so much overwhelm. So giving yourself this extension of grace and rest and processing is very, 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 very important. They recommend, again, going by yourself. So I went to the same place Sam went to, and it was in Napa Valley.
Mhm.
And it was so important for me to have that moment of reflection, first off. So they give you questions, they give you workbooks to reflect on your process, to understand based on everything that you learned. What are some big takeaways? What is the work that you have done? How do you want to continue this? How do you want to show up for yourself continuously? How do you go home to your partner? How do you go home to your work life? They give you the steps on how to make sure you're holding hands with yourself and also knowing that that pendulum is going to swing. And this is very important is that you leave Hoffman feeling like you are a goddess floating bird. And you have to remember that pendulum does have to swing of going back to your old patterns while
Mhm.
you're integrating. And that is okay. That is absolutely going to happen. But what are the tools and the support system that you're going to have? And those 2 days when you go be by yourself, you get to have that moment with yourself and say, "Hey, I know we're going back into the real world. How can we show up for each other? How can I step away from phone time? How can I let my people know that I need a couple days? How can I communicate best to them? How can
Mhm.
I, again, check in with my quad check of how to show up for me?" And those days are so important.
Yeah, really being so gentle with yourself. And I actually only did 1 day. I remember okay, so before you go, you meet with your teacher on Zoom, and Steve was like, "Are you gonna plan like, where are you planning for your integration?" And I go, "Oh, no, like, I'm gonna get home. I know I'm gonna miss my husband and my dogs." And he goes, "Oh, no. The point of this is for you to come home to yourself, and you need that time with yourself after." And I'm so grateful to have listened to him. I actually only did 1 night though, and they highly recommend 2. And in hindsight, definitely recommend the 2. And also in hindsight, I actually had a lot of work the next week. Like I had the week of Hoffman, and then the next week I was actually flying from Austin to LA to like be on, do podcasts, be like, this person when I felt like a freaking alien that did not belong here on earth. So, really give yourself grace and like be so gentle with yourself after because a lot of things are going to come up and there's going to be a lot of things that you're continuing to process. Another question that I get that we can kind of wrap this up with is when is the right time to do something like this? And I would just tell you that there's no right time in life to do anything. There's just time and what you do with it. And what's interesting is I would speak for both of us, Sam, in that we both went at really low lows. And typically, when you're signing off for a week and you're going to go, like do this quote unquote retreat type thing, you kind of want your life to feel like it's together. And I know for me, I went right after my grandpa died. There was like a ton of shit going on in my personal life. And I was just honestly in a million pieces. And I called Sam. I'm like, I feel like I need to get myself together before I can go do this, but the timing's not right. And what's beautiful is that even like at your worst points, it's honestly the best time to go. And they say any point of transition in your life, it can support. And it's for people who, quote unquote, want real change, if you're serious about real change. So don't wait for your life to feel like it's perfectly together to give yourself the opportunity to go. I actually think that with our experiences, we went to Hoffman when we needed it the most, and that's why we got the most.
And lastly is with that, if you're listening and you're like, "Is this for me?" My teacher left us with something that was really beautiful because someone was a little worried that they were going home to a partner that hasn't done Hoffman, and we were all thinking about that, like, everyone has to do this because it changed our lives. And she said, "Listen, this is a way, but it's not everyone's way.
Mhm.
So you have to understand it's supposed to be a tool for you and it's going to change some people's lives, but some people, this isn't for them and it's not for you to pressure it. So for yourself, if you're listening and it's, tugging on those heartstrings, I would absolutely invite in that yes. And if it's something that you can be so proud of other people for doing, but you don't feel like it is your time right now, or you don't feel called to do it at this moment, that is so okay too. We all have the tools and the things that get us closer to our most authentic self, and you just keep following that.
Yeah, we love you guys so much. If you are saying yes, definitely send us a note. We are so excited for you and just grateful to get to share something that means the world to both Sam and I and really is the best, the best. I mean, my goodness. Thank you, Bob Hoffman, for creating it and all of the beautiful people that Sam and I have both met through doing the process. I know they will be in our life forever. And you honestly
Mhm.
make connections in that 1 week that are deeper than people you've known your entire life. So,
Yeah, that's a very real thing. You feel so connected to these people, which is,
yeah.
I think, what we all crave. So that is a big magic moment.
Yeah.
We're excited to see if you guys attend Hoffman. Let us know, but we're so grateful for you sharing this time with us, and we love you so much.
Love you so much. Bye.